today we have a very special event. And the reason is that this week GlobalLogic is hosting meeting of board of directors and executive team here in Ukraine. So we decided to use that opportunity to share with you, I would say, global perspective about the digital transformation, about product development services, about IT industry in general, and specifically about GlobalLogic. So I'm very pleased to introduce your special speakers for today's event. So Betsy Atkins, chairman of GlobalLogic Board of Directors and board member of many industry-leading companies. Shashank Samant, GlobalLogic Chief Executive Officer, and Igor Beda, GlobalLogic Central and Eastern Europe Regional Head. Betsy, you as a chairman of many industry-leading companies, is digital transformation is a common board-level question today?
Actually, digital transformation is one of the top areas that all public company boards are focused on. They realize that they have often a big technical debt, and they need to transform their customer experience, and they need to tech enable their products and their services so that they're relevant for the future.
Can you tell us how this space is evolving both from engineering standpoint, from engineering to transformational initiatives, like regarding new roles and probably new challenges in that space?
Yes, first of all, thank you for coming, and it's a nice opportunity to get together with all of you. You asked me a question. As a student of history, I can take 1 hour to explain this, but let me try to put it into probably a few minutes. You have to all go back around 40 years. The reason I say 40 years, because some of the big product companies were born in between 1972 and 76, which is Apple, Microsoft, SAP, and Oracle. We still dominate the market. And these companies originally were born to create technologies which can we can create the efficiency in the industries, financial services, manufacturing, and other areas. Over a period of time, almost close to 20, 25 years, it stayed that way. We call those companies ISVs, independent software vendors, which job is to create technology which is used by the IT departments to create the efficiency in the back office. Then came Google and Facebook's of the world, and they actually tried to create technology to enable the business. That's the way actually Google's job was, right? They democratized the entire technology, and they reached out to all of us. We are the one actually who Google doesn't have. If you see that they don't have a user interface screen, there's just one line. You can search on your own. But they tried to create the technology with Android and everything, which can potentially become a technology-enabled business. Thereafter came Ubers of the world and Amazons of the world, and they are the ones who make technology as a business. Because those are the companies which started going into retail, the books and publishing and everything as a business. And that is the way the product companies started shifting. So it shifted from Microsoft's and SAP's and Oracle to Google's and Facebook's to getting further in terms of Amazons of the world. Now, every single business has become technology business, whether it is financial services, whether it is manufacturing, whether it is automotive, whether it is medtech. Actually, Steve Austell is sitting over here, who is on our board. He's ex-CMO of Chief Marketing Officer of Medtronic. He can tell you that. So every business is changing. Net, what happened is all of us as software engineers now are the ones which are not just technology providers or kingmakers, but become the kings. Most of the forward-leaning CEOs of the industries today, they are technology CEOs. Either they are coming from technology world or they're curious about the technology. So that's the way the entire product engineering landscape had changed.
The digital transformation became a catchy word, a catchy phrase, which everyone understands its in own way. And can you explain us what is the definition of digital transformation in GlobalLogic?
Yes, I'll try to make it very simple. I think Apple in 2007, when they launched iPhone, it changed everything because it gave the power in the user's hand to transact, to comment, to consume, to predict. All those actually happen in that one device. And that power came from desktop all the way in consumer's hand. Is ubiquitous. It is more actually in our hand more than even our watch or even any of even umbrellas for that matter in UK. That is the first piece which has happened. What happened from there is the consumer became the central point for most of the businesses. When that happened is also change how you actually are trying to transact that particular business. So in our definition, the digital is you have to redraw all your journeys in any industries around the consumer. and for which you need a smart design folks who actually think differently. These are all people who look like ponytail guys. They don't look like me, right? They look like when I'm in Silicon Valley with the torn jeans and t-shirt. Those are the guys. Once they start figuring that out, then essentially it comes the complex engineering, which you need to have the engineers, because design challenges the boundaries of engineering. Engineers always work in the boundaries. We are perfectionists. So they go from design to engineering. When that is happening, every single data element you have to capture, because in the data lies the portrait of all of us. That's what GDPRs and all the other rules came. That's what Facebooks and Google can predict. Oftentimes you have a Google phone or Apple phone. By the time you get in the car, it says it will take 5 minutes to reach home. How it knows that actually I'm in the car going home? Because they're tracking your pattern, right, with coordinates and everything. And all this has to happen as a consumer. We are restless. We need to have it happen in a very fast pace, what we call rolling thunder. So digital for us is redefining all the journeys around industries, putting consumer, all of us in the center, then, and that is a design job, then try to use complex engineering to make it into reality. It should look like a magic, which Ukraine does actually to a great extent. Then every single data point which is getting generated, track it and try to figure it out how you can predict the behavior. And lastly, it has to happen on a regular basis, on a constant basis. Nobody has time today to wait for 5 years or 10 years cycle, which Oracle and SAP have to deliver the software. It has to happen every 15, 20 days. Twitter does it actually every 2 days, by the way. We can't deal with that. But that's what essentially happens. And that's a digital transformation for us.
Okay, thank you, Shashank. When it comes to some major digital initiatives, they usually associated with some risk. How do you do boards embrace that risks or try to avoid it? What kind of philosophy do you are you in? Failure is not an option, or fail it fast?
I'm a believer in fail fast. I think that you need to be able to innovate and iterate and have a fast cycle. And you need to do testing at all times. If you're trying out your new website and you're trying to see which color engages somebody, you do A/B testing, orange, green, and you see which gets people to click. So I think that the old model of failure is not an option is a slow development cycle model. And as you were saying, the velocity of change and the impatience that we all have is not going to accept a slow development cycle.
Thank you. But when it comes to failure or success, there should be someone responsible. And so I would like to ask Shashank, who, for your opinion, should be responsible for this digital transformation inside the organization?
I think my personal opinion is the CEO is the one actually who commits himself or herself on that. And I'll tell you why. Because if you take the Wall Street Journal or Korn Ferry research, the average CEO tenure in the Western world is around 8 years. That's what CEO is on the job. Average CEO age in the tech industry is 55, and in the other industries is 60. If you take the CFO's tenure is close to 5 years. CIO's tenure is 4.5 years, if he or she is lucky. Oftentimes, 3 years they change, right? So who can take the biggest risk? A CEO, who is going to be longer. Digital is not about creating an app. Digital is all about actually the way the business is, as I said, business is technology, the way the business is going to behave. Oftentimes, as a CEO, including me, if we take the step on digital transformation, I'm making the company survive and thrive in future. That means I'm making my successor's path even better. So there has to be a long-term planning, not just for around 1 or 2 years. You have to have successes every year, but you need to have planning around 5 to 10 years. And that's the reason CEO is responsible. I'll actually just stretch a little bit further over here. So I'm also a student of history. So forget about digital transformation for the time being. I'll just take 2 minutes on this, and you'll love it. When the biggest transformation in the world happened, those are religious transformations. Okay, 1400 years back is Islam. 600 years before that, Christianity. You can go back to Judaism and Greeks and Romans and Hindus even before that. Every time there are 3 elements are required for that transformation. Okay, I'll relate to this. The first one is a prophet, except Hindus and, which is I am, and Greeks and all, because that is pagan, that is different, right? There are multiple gods. But a prophet, it needs a play, which is a book, and it needs a place, which is going to be different. Take any religion. Digital transformation is no different. That prophet has to be the CEO who takes the biggest risk. And oftentimes in prophet's life, they don't get the credit. The credit goes actually after prophet is done, right? That's what CEOs happen. A book, you need to have your own way and mechanics to make the digital transformation work, which is design, engineering. That's what we teach our clients. Because the automotive company wants to become digital and software player, it's different. You have to teach them. And the last part is, the bigger the company is more difficult for them to think more creative because they're already successful. So you have to create a different place when all these things happen. So just remember that those things are important, and that's the reason CEO is the one who is that quote-unquote prophet who is going to get the company across.
What skills probably you also need to be successful in this race, to win this race of digital transformation?
I'm going to pass this to Betsy. She has a fantastic take on her book, which she wrote. And I was blown away, Betsy, when you published the book in San Francisco and all the CEOs were there, including Wind Resorts and others. Why don't you take the take at that? She has a fantastic take on that.
So I think you need 3 sets of skills. Everybody knows you need IQ, intellectual intelligence. To be successful, you need EQ, emotional intelligence. So IQ, EQ, and you need FQ. That was not FU, FQ, which is flexibility quotient. And if you have all 3 of those, where we're innovating and change is happening, you'll be way more successful than if you only are over-indexed in one area.
I think this is very important. I'll tell you why. Because as engineers, I'm an engineer, so is Igor. It's very difficult for engineers to have emotional IQ, right? They have IQ, smart people. I think oftentimes they're ahead of their class. That doesn't become engineers. But I think we lack the EQ part, the emotional part. In the consumerized world, you have to put yourself in the consumer's shoes and think differently. It's not this application I will give and you'll behave that way. You have to think about, yes, I think the consumer, we can't call consumer stupid. You say that he or she will behave differently, right? And then the flexibility quotient is important because typically as engineers, when we are given the schedule and timeline and specs, we just code and get out of that. No, everything changes, right? So that FQ is very important. If we basically tweak our engineering talent with that, which actually adding a little bit of a design element to that, and adding a little bit of flexibility element, I think those are the fundamental skills. On top of that, you can layer up all the engineering skills. That is easy. The EQ and FQ skills are as important as IQ to take it forward.
It is known that GlobalLogic has big ambitions on European markets and European-based engineering. Can you tell us a little bit more about the regional strategy of GlobalLogic and the approach to win a bigger share of European markets?
Yes, so I think if you see the industries which we operate in communications and media, all the way from network equipment like Ericsson's of the world, going to carriers like Vodafone, and then media side. We operate in retail CPG, F&B, which is retail chains, consumer product goods, and food and beverage side. We operate in medical devices, medtech side. We work in industrial and automobile. If you see the 4 out of these 3 sectors, they're predominantly in Europe. So naturally, today GlobalLogic business is close to around 65% coming out of US, which is generated, demand side, where the demand is, and close to 30% is out of Europe. We believe is these 4 out of 5 industries, we should be close to around 40 to 45% coming out of Europe. So at this point, we put it this way, close to around $250 million business comes out of Europe, which should go much higher. We have a 5-year ambition of almost going towards a $2 billion company. So if you do the calculation, almost close to near $900 to $1 billion business should get generated out of Europe. Having said that, where the business is delivered from, that where the engineers are, close to half of the GlobalLogic business delivered from Central and Eastern Europe. Almost close to 6,000 employees are actually in this region. And out of that, 30% of that overall business is delivered over Ukraine.
I would like to ask Igor Beda to tell us a little bit more about GlobalLogic specifics in CE region. Let's start with CE region.
GlobalLogic as a company in general is purely focused on complex R&D services which we are providing towards our client. And this is the case for Central and Eastern European region where we are present in. We are on a very active growth trend, and we are basically market outperform because the market, let's say in Ukraine, grows at a level of 20-25%, while our company has grown by, for 2018, our company has grown by 32%. So we are just in the beginning of the path in Europe. We are looking forward to increase our business demand in Europe dramatically, and we are going to support this from the engineering side and operational side of the company.
Igor, can you tell us a little bit more about like the structure of GlobalLogic in CE region? This is not only Ukraine, but probably not everyone in this room knows about other locations that are inside of CE region of GlobalLogic.
Okay, so when we are talking about the engineering forces we have in the region and when we do our operations, at this moment we are present in 4 countries, which are Ukraine, Slovakia, Poland, and Croatia. Our offices are located in certain different cities. We have certain R&D centers over here, and from engineering perspective, we have close to 6,000 engineers working in this region.
Okay, thank you. And when we're speaking about like delivery engineering business, so it's obvious that talents are extremely important. And do you think that Ukraine is quite a successful setup to make a success in IT and engineering space?
So speaking about positioning of Ukraine, I think the country has a quite unique position, not only in Europe but in the whole world, right? So we have the most growing industry among any other countries. So the number of fresh graduates which is added every year, and the overall industry growth is amazing. It can't be comparable with other industries in Ukraine, but also it can't be comparable how the whole industry is developed in other countries. So I think the most important is to protect the growth trend which we have already, and education and talent is one of the topics which are becoming more and more hot these days, and for sure we need to make sure that the educational system, not only in Ukraine but in the whole world, is following the rate with which the technology develops. So we do this, let's say, investment in education from the company side. I can tell you that over last year, company has invested 1.5 million of US dollars into education in different programs in the region. So we have active partnership with 11 universities in Ukraine, in all the cities where we have our engineering offices. However, we also need to make it more like for Ukraine, we definitely need to make a top priority for the government as well, because the education and educated labor force is the key of the success for the industry.
Thank you very much for your attention and engagement. And many thanks to our speakers for their thoughtful insights and ideas and information. So thank you and have a good day.